What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but it's been a very interesting few weeks. We have a new Pokemon TCG set. We've had many tournaments around the world. And today, we have a special interview with the latest champion of the region, essentially the Philippine Regional League champion, Lorenz Matthew Tech. Hi, Lorenz. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey Aaron, how's it going?
Great, great at my end. I've been having a spectacular weekend, I want to say, because we had not just the Philippines Regional League, we also had the Indonesia Regional League, and then we also had the LAIC held like across the world. So a lot of things going on this past weekend, but I immediately
Yeah.
thought about having a chat with you because it is, we had one of the largest events in the Philippines, right? Almost 200 Master Division players, duking it out at the first regional league of the season for the Philippines. But before we get into any of that, would you kindly introduce yourself to our viewers?
Okay. My name is Lorenz Matthew Tech. You could call me Lorenz. All my friends call me Lorenz. I've been playing Pokemon TCG since probably I think 2018 or 2019. I remember the set that came out when I was playing was Team Up. That was the
Oh,
first set.
very
Yeah, back in the Tag
nice.
Team GX era days. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome
I
stuff.
used to play uh Green Zard. If any of you OGs out there remember that deck,
Green's
Green's Engine.
exploration, right?
Yeah. That
Yeah, we remember that. We remember that. Again,
I guess since we
Charizard,
have
very
yeah
familiar
again
Pokemon.
Charizard. I guess it's one of my favorites. Yeah,
Mm.
but if you, I just wanted to mention quickly. Maybe some of you out there remember Green Zard. You can get specific trainer cards with that. If you
Mm.
look here at the Arvin Zard list that I used, kind of similar in a way.
Mm.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, no, but blast from the past essentially, right? We're talking about 5 years down the road or 4 or 5 years down the road, and Charizard again with a similar engine. So there is some again like I said, blast from the past happening right now.
Yeah,
Very cool, very
you know,
cool.
maybe it's a bit of nostalgia and main character energy.
Very very interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't think of that, but now that you mention it, you should have prepared me for this interview. You didn't tell me you had Green Zard as one of your first decks. That's very sneaky,
Yeah,
right? But in all things considered, congratulations on your win. It is a
thank you.
monumental achievement, of course, to win any event in today's Pokemon TCG world because of how large some of these events can get compared to days gone by. Like years ago, we had nationals at 30 people. Now nationals
Yeah,
are huge, right? Even regional leagues are huge now.
yeah. It's always been increasing
Mm.
every time there's a new tournament. At least for the Philippines, I can say that it's always been increasing. Back then, our town leagues used to be at around 60 players. Now our first town league for this season was at, I believe, 125 players. So it,
Wow.
it keeps increasing.
Wow, that is impressive. And I think that if I can speak for Malaysia and even Singapore, it's happening all across our region, right? These are interesting times. We are getting large events even at
It is.
a town league level, right? Which is supposed to be like our league cup essentially from
Yeah,
if we were based on the old system. So these are getting very large across all three countries: the Philippines, Malaysia, and
yeah.
Singapore. So it's great.
It's
And
so nice.
yeah, it's great to be back in the Pokemon TCG for sure, especially after COVID and whatnot. But now, like looking at your achievement right now, I think the one major thing that we have to call out is the fact that this is the first major event of the new format, the battle styles up until Paradox Rift format. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong, right? This is
it
inclusive
is.
of
It is.
Paradox Rift. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have a single town league in the Philippines before
Mm.
this. We just had some small casual events, but everyone was trying to keep their main deck list for regionals a secret essentially. And people have been
Mm.
practicing with their teams. Their friend groups or their teams, their play groups.
Very cool. Yeah, it's getting competitive for sure. And now let's dive into the list, right? Looking at your list right now, this is an interesting take on what we used to call Arvin Zard, right? Arvin
Yeah.
Zard
Yeah.
being like one of the I believe it's now probably the most impactful Charizard list, especially if we talk about
Yeah.
even the new format. We don't see the Arceus build, but then again, the Arceus build did win Malaysia Regional League. That was one
Yeah.
format ago. But now what I see here, and I think a sneak peek at your matchups. Next slide, Arvin not just by yourself, but also almost everywhere in the Philippines, right? This is an
Yeah.
interesting deck choice or deck meta essentially that we are seeing in the Philippines. But maybe before we jump into the meta game and the matchups, right? Looking at your list, I'm gonna I'm gonna quickly say that I have some favorites already based on that. But walk us through your list. What is the thought process behind taking this list of Arvinsat to the Philippine Region League?
Okay. So the first thing I did was okay, I'll give you some context.
Hmm.
I actually entered regionals with my girlfriend, and I said, "Oh, I can let you play Miraidon. I can let you play Chen Pao. You know, there's so many good decks out there." I was planning to play Guardy myself, but then she told me she wanted to play Garchomp EX because it was her favorite Pokemon, and she wanted
Wow.
to play it with the Brilliant Stars Lucario,
Hmm.
which it's a decent combo, but like it's not very competitive. It's definitely not a tier 1 meta deck.
Hmm.
So I thought to myself, well, if you're gonna play Garchomp, well then I might as well play with my favorite Pokemon, which is Charizard. Charizard wasn't even my first choice actually going into the regionals. It's just that I just wanted to play with a Pokemon that I really liked.
Ah, very nice. Very nice. That's a
Yeah.
brilliant
So,
story.
yeah. So that was the first step in basically making the list. And then when I looked at what I thought the meta would look like, I thought maybe Lost Box wouldn't be as
Hmm.
apparent because we have Iron Hands.
Yep.
And even if someone did play Lost Box, it would probably have to be the Radiant Charizard version because
Hmm.
Radiant Charizard it can one shot Iron Hands. So you're trading two prizes for two prizes. And I think
Yep.
that would have been decent for Lost Box to deal with. That would have been a decent solution for Lost Box to deal with Iron Hands. But then Lost Box can also have uh, TM Devolution.
Yeah.
And TM
Yeah.
Devolution is very strong against stage 2 rare candy decks.
Hmm.
So my thought process was okay, so if that's what Lost Box is going to run, and I know that around 25 to 30% of players in the Philippines play Lost Box,
Wow.
then
That's
the
a big
counter to that would have to
that's
be
a big
Guardy.
shift. That's a big shift, by the way. That's a huge share of people playing
Yeah,
Lost Box. Wow.
yeah. Okay. So, okay, maybe I can get into the reason why I think that is.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
basically, since Lost Box might be strong, the Devolution version, I thought, then maybe many people will play Guardy. And if many people play Guardy and Lost Box, then I think the most unexpected card for that Charizard can have to deal with them would be not Lost City, because everyone's expecting Lost City, would be
Hmm.
Delphox actually.
Awesome stuff. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
was my thought process.
that's
Yeah.
a very interesting, essentially background to one of the cards that I'm looking at right now, and I'm
Yeah.
blown away by because I would have never thought Delphox makes his way back in the format at this stage. Was it really useful throughout the event? How useful was
Oh,
it throughout your matchups?
do you want to go through my matchups? Because I can
I
explain
mean,
how amazing Delphox is.
you know what? I think that's a good segue. Like, I mean, just look at the list right now. So just for clarity, I played Charizard as well, right before the Paradox
Yeah.
Rift format. I had mixed feelings about the deck because I, on one hand, had a good, I thought I had a good deck overall, but there's a huge prevalence of path decks in Malaysia, like Lawzone, Giratina,
Oh,
Miraidon. So, path to the pick on turn one, I saw that probably like 4 times out of my 8 rounds at Regional League.
ooh, that's painful.
So it's a meta thing, right? So when I look at this list, I'm like, well, you have two stadiums and you have two vacuums, exactly what I played, which
Yeah.
would have helped, but in my context, it's very shaky. So when I
I mean,
look at this list,
we also have Sealstone to get the
that's
stadiums in
true.
the vacuum, and we have Mew who can also get the
Hmm.
vacuum.
That is true, and I think that's one of the things where if I look at this list as a Charizard deck fan, I was like, I think this might work for me, and I might play the same exact list for my next event. But don't hold it. Let's jump straight into the matchups. I think it's a perfect segue to look at where this list really clicked. Like before we jump, obviously we still had your typical 4-1-3 build of Charizard, which I also agree with. A
Yeah.
2-2 Pidgeot line, the Radiant Charizard, the Luminion, the Mew, the Manaphy, and of course, I think the Jirachi is a given. You have to play that now if you want to stay
Yeah.
relevant in some of the matchups, like Iron Valiant is around. So
Yeah.
overall, the structure of the deck is I would play your exact list, but I wouldn't be convinced yet about Delphox until you tell me what it's all about. Like, let's jump into it. Like, let's look at your matchup right now.
Okay.
And this is an amazing run, by the way. Unbeaten for 7 rounds, and then taking a loss against Gardy at round 8. And then
Okay.
obviously going on to winning all the way in day 2 for your championship run. 15 wins, 3 losses overall. Talk me through your matchups, and allude to some of the cards that you had in your deck, by the way. Just go through it like
Okay.
that.
Okay, for sure. So my first matchup was a mirror,
Mm-hmm.
which I basically won pretty much on my second turn because I went first and I had Delphox. And I was able to Delphox on the second turn and kill his two Charmanders.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and from there, he only sets up you because you as a Charizard player, you probably only set up like two Charmanders.
Yeah.
So you usually think you're safe. Like there's no way against a Charizard mirror, I'm gonna get board wiped on the second turn.
That is
Like no one expects
nasty.
that.
That is
It is.
nasty. That is brutal. That should be illegal again in a Charizard matchup. Wow. And on the
Yeah.
first round as well.
Yeah. So the moment I killed the two Charmanders, he's down two prizes. He
Yeah.
doesn't have a single Charmander. It's the next turn I boss up the next Charmander, and then the turn after that I boss up the next Charmander, and then four prizes down, there's nothing you can do.
Oh my gosh. I, I don't know what to say. I think we should end the interview right now. That is so brutal.
Yeah.
Oh wow! And on your first round itself, it paid dividends. That is amazing. That's an
Yeah.
amazing,
And
card
if you,
choice.
if you look at my next two matchups, it's
Hmm.
the same story. Just change Charmander to Ralts. It's the same story.
There's a part of me right now, Lorenz. I'll be really honest. There's a part of me that says, you know what? I'm not going to share this list to anyone. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
this list to my weeklies on Friday, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing because that's amazing. People are hyping up about NTV and Iron Valiant. You know what? I'm just gonna play Delphox and
Yeah,
see.
yeah, no.
It's crazy. That's really awesome what you pulled off in like three of your first like three rounds in a row essentially. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
Uh yeah. Actually, uh the funny thing is I see people discard Manaphy in
Mm-hmm.
the when they see that I'm playing Charizard, Arvinzard, they just discard the Manaphy. Sometimes in the finals
Oh
match,
no.
my opponent even lost zone the Manaphy before he realized I had Delphox.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I think I don't have to explain much on my
No,
strategy.
you're done.
It's just one card.
You're
Yeah.
done. Yeah, I mean that's and what you say is true, right? If I face you as a fellow Charizard player and I see a Charmander open up or even a Pidgey, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
expect to bench my Manaphy. I mean, I even want to bench my Manaphy because I want to be able to set up more threats. I
Yeah.
might have to Luminion early. I might have to have a space for my Mew. If I'm playing Entei, a space for my Entei. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to bench that Manaphy, right? And I think
Yeah,
that
and Manaphy
Delphox.
is also like Ultra Ball food. Like you can just discard it with Ultra Ball.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I've been doing for the most part in my matchups against Charizard. But and it's interesting because we've heard about Delphox obviously, right? Like we've heard about it. We've had lists, about with Delphox in the early days of the Charizard, deck list. But obviously
Yeah.
it's disappeared for a while now, and Charizard isn't that popular deck if you compare it against like Guardy is what you mentioned. Even in Malaysia, we have Charizard players, but not many play Delphox to be fair.
Yeah.
So I just have to say that's an amazing meta call that you made, including Delphox in the Charizard EX list. Like this is it just blows my mind how straightforward his game plan is, and
And
hearing from you, it's paid off throughout the entire tournament.
yeah. Actually, I'd like to mention another
Hmm.
thing that's really fun with Delphox. Because
Okay.
he does 120 damage to the active and then
Mm-hmm.
120 to the bench. If your opponent dares to put down a Shining Arcana Gardevoir without putting anything on it, and you do 120 damage to it, it's useless. Because he can never power it up. It's alive, but it's useless.
Wow. That. Wow. The number of plays in my mind now, talking about Gardevoir, like, oh wow, that's
Yeah.
wow.
I
That is
also thought,
yeah, that's true. I never thought about it that way. That's interesting.
yeah, and you said you played Charizard, right?
Yeah.
And as a Charizard player, we know that in a mirror matchup, the most important thing is to keep the prize tempo. We
Yep.
have to keep our opponent on odd prizes while we
Yep.
keep ourselves on even prizes, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Because we know that If they've taken 4 prizes, we can one shot the Pidgeot. If they take it 5 prizes, we can one shot another Charizard, stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So so what I did to fix that is, let's say I attack in the mid game with Charizard against another Charizard. So that's like what? That's usually around 240 damage, something
Yeah.
around there. What I thought of is I can finish that Charizard off in the active with Delphox, and then put another 120 damage on his Bibarel sitting at the back. So that's a 3 prize
Swing.
exchange. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that can help fix my prize count if it comes to it. Yeah.
That is interesting, yeah, and for the most part, you're also expecting there to be no benefit to even stop that gameplay,
Yeah.
right? Unless, of course, you open with the Delphox and then, the
Oh,
play.
that has
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How did those matches go? Like do you go after the Manaphy aggressively where you can, or do you just say, hey, I'm just gonna switch up the game plan a little bit?
Okay, so another card I have on my list is I believe it's called Professor Turo's Scenario.
I was waiting for you to bring it up. I was waiting for you to bring it up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really good. I think it's super underrated because it's
Mm,
essentially you can essentially heal. I mean, you can get rid of one of your damaged Charizards, but it's also good in that scenario where on the first turn and then you have it. You don't like your active Pokemon. You can get rid of it. I've done that maybe twice where I had a VIP pass in a Turo scenario. So I just VIP passed for Mew and Charmander, and then I Turos away the active Pokemon so that I could Mew on the first turn.
that's
I mean on
brilliant.
on the
Yeah.
first turn, one second.
Yeah, that essentially gives you a chance to dig for Battle VIP with the Mew
Yeah,
again. So it's as if like it's your fifth Arven almost out of nowhere. You're
yeah.
still digging for it. That's
But
interesting. Yeah.
I'd also like to mention.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, you look at this list, you see at the benefits of Delphox. It seems like a really really good Pokemon, but it has two problems that I found.
Hmm.
The first problem is that it has two retreat cost.
Fair enough.
And when you use your attack, which is the other problem, you lost zone 2 fire energy. So when you lost zone 2 fire energy, you only have 6 left in the deck. Well, you can only have up to 5 left because one of them is attached to the Delphox.
Yep,
And
that's
then
true.
usually you used your Charizard EX to power up the Delphox, so you don't have any energy on your Charizards in the bench. So after doing your attack, you're left with 1 energy on your Delphox, no energy on your bench. How the hell can you attack on the next turn?
That brings in your next card you're gonna talk
Yeah.
about, right? Your Magma Basin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We actually no, that's
No.
not the purpose for having the magma basin. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh the thing what I found to fix the problem I just mentioned is honestly, you just have to time it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always be too greedy on the first turn. I mean, sorry, on the second turn, where you see an opportunity to Delphox, then you're just gonna Delphox. No, it doesn't. It can't always be like that. I think that even if Delphox is a really good surprise card, as a player, you still have to practice it a lot, and you're gonna find that
Mm,
a lot of times it's not the best thing to do on the first turn unless you can guarantee double Charizard EX.
makes
So
sense.
I
Yeah.
found that if the enemy was able to set up well, it's actually better to attack with Charizard first and then Delphox on your turn after attacking with Charizard.
Very interesting. So you're essentially saying that hey, we've gone through the pros and cons of it now, right? The Fox being
Yeah,
a very good attacker, but also has a limitation where you're not gonna be able to recycle
yeah,
those energy ever again.
yeah,
So I'm hearing a lot of experience from you right now about when to time the use of this, this very
yeah.
interesting tech choice that you've made. I have to ask one question though. Has there been
Okay.
any game so far where you have used Fox twice in the same game?
Okay. Uh, I'm not sure which Guardy matchup it
Oh,
was.
so you did. So you did do
Yeah,
it. Oh my
his
gosh.
he went. His setup was Cresselia in the front, and then two routes in the bench.
Okay.
So what I did was I escape roped him, so he had to put a routes in the active,
Mm-hmm.
and then I Delphoxed away the two routes. Then the next turn he set up another two routes, but luckily I was able to get boss and evolve into another Charizard EX to power up the Delphox, and then he just surrendered.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That is oh wow. I was hoping you'd say no. I wish I did. But you actually pulled it off. That's
yeah,
that's
it's
crazy.
satisfying. Yeah, the board
Oh
wipe is actually
man,
satisfying.
You should frame the Delphox, man.
I will. Maybe
You
I
should
will.
frame it up. No, that is an amazing story about how to really utilize your tech card that no one's prepared for. Like that is amazing, and
Yeah.
it's a little also a bit of a sad situation, right? I don't know what that Guardi player had. Like had they had access to mana fee anymore, or did they like throw it away by that point? You
Uh,
know.
I'll I'll tell you what they had. They had a lot of free time after that.
Oh man, no, that's rough. No, you shouldn't be saying that. That's rough. But in any case, I'm blown away by your deck review, Lorenz. This is an
Thank you.
interesting breakdown overall, and this is not a matchup breakdown that is scoffed at. You played a meta deck, almost everything. Obviously, there's a Zorok
Yeah.
box there, which you probably find one of those rogue decks, and you still
Yeah.
beat that. And honestly, looking at this, it really does tell me that Charizard still has a lot of legs to it in this new meta game, right? And
Uh,
it's a given. It's still a good deck, at this stage.
yeah.
Whether or not you run Delphox or not, I think it's whether or not you're confident enough not to run into what you ran into, right? Like if you say, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna run into a lot of Menifee, let's bring in Delphox and see what happens. But it's an awesome
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like in any next event, I cannot run this deck because it's too expected already.
Oh well, to be
Like if they
fair,
see me,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, to be fair, I think that can go both ways. Like, I'm not gonna try and pat myself on the back here, but I did something similar back in, I think it was in April and May, where an Arceus deck with Duraldon and Vulpix made, the mid
oh yeah,
first place, right? So Alex Szymanski played that all the way up to the win at I think it was EUIC. I copied his deck list, card for card, and I went
yeah,
7-0 at the regionals because no one knew what to do against Vulpix for the most part. Like most of my matchups, people just like, what does Vulpix do?
yeah.
I'm just gonna hit into the Arceus, and then when my Arceus goes down, Vulpix inactive, just take prize after prize. So it could be that
Yeah.
people aren't unprepared for it. So it it, it it really depends on the meta game, right? Like if people are
It
expecting
does.
more Charizard, maybe they would think, okay, maybe there's Delphox in here, So yeah, it's a good point that you bring up. Last question. All right. Now that you're a champion, a regional league champion, what are you excited most for the next few months and for the rest of the season?
Uh, okay. For the community,
Hmm.
I'm really excited that the number of players has been increasing. It's always been increasing with every tournament, and I'm really happy about that. I hope to grow into like 500 player regionals. Like if the Philippines can be a region that can have a 500 player regionals, I'll be really happy because that'll be really exciting. I feel I usually in our town leagues we only have Swiss 6 to 7 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
which is I think that's not enough to determine a true champion. I feel like the best of 16 the top 16 best of threes are
Yep.
where it's really decided, because in my first matchup in the top 16 cut, I actually prized 3 Charizard EX. That's why I have a loss there.
Wow.
I didn't give up immediately
Mm-hmm.
because my opponent was using Guardy and Screamtail. They had the luxurious cape on, and then I vacuumed the cape away to knock out the Screamtail.
Mm-hmm.
I also knocked out a Gardevoir with my Charmander, the one that does 30 damage. That's
Ah,
also another thing. I split my Charmanders.
I saw
Two of
that.
them can do
Yeah.
30 damage. Two of them have 70 HP. For the Guardian, the Lost Box matchup, and the Roaring Moon matchup.
Mm-hmm.
That's the purpose behind that. So, if it wasn't the best of three, I would have lost then and there just because I had 3 Charizards prized.
Yep. Makes sense.
But because it was a best of three, and I was very familiar with the Guardian matchup, and I didn't reveal my Delphox, I was able to win the next two within the time limit fairly quickly.
Good to hear. No, it's a good point. Like we essentially as a region, right? Southeast Asia had
Yeah,
gone from best of threes for the most part in our major events to not the best of one. Now there's a lot of debate about whether what's better, what's not. I'm not gonna get into that, but I hear you what your point is, and that is, having a day one Swiss and then transitioning into like a top 16, knockout
yeah,
rounds, that really does, determine who really belongs up there, which honestly I echo. That's a is a brilliant take overall. You know,
yeah.
yeah, good
And
stuff.
if I may be selfish on what my desire would
Mm-hmm.
be, I really enjoy playing on a broadcasted table. It's actually really fun and exciting.
That is
Uh,
no, that's great to hear, man.
yeah, because it was my first time, and
Mm.
uh, I think there was a sequence in who they would put on the broadcast table, but I 3 out of the 4 matches that were broadcasted, I was there, so that was really fun. That
No,
was
that's
really
good to hear.
fun.
No, it's amazing to hear, and great that you had the chance to be on the broadcast table. I think the one thing that I've been hoping for in our region is that we should get our regional league stream online, not just on the broadcast
Oh
table.
yeah,
We should have it
totally.
stream. I've been pushing for it, and it's great to hear someone also say that they enjoy being on the broadcast table because it adds a whole level of excitement to it. I've been on the
It
broadcast table before, a
excitement.
long time ago, years and years ago, back when we did have official streams. So now that we do have official streams, I think for we had it for our nationals and we had it for Asia Open.
Yeah,
We really should be having this more often, but it's
yeah,
the powers that be have to align and say, okay, let's give it to the regional leagues as well. But I completely echo your point. I think players, both new and old, will be excited to be on the broadcast table. You know.
yeah, and not just for the players, but for the people watching too. Because I remember in the finals, game 2, uh, when I had the Delphox, and then I only needed to take 2 more prizes, and then everyone knew what was gonna happen. I was gonna put the Delphox. I was gonna use the infamous attack. Everyone started cheering. I didn't declare the attack yet, but everyone was already cheering. Everyone knew what was gonna happen. Yeah, that was
Oh,
really fun.
that would have been a moment to capture for the cameras, and I can only hope someone who was broadcasting it did record it, and they would send it over to someone to do some commentary over it. I wish they would do that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I someone's gonna do it, but it really remains to be seen. But it's great that you had an awesome moment like that
Yeah,
on your broadcast match. It's always cool to hear.
yeah, it totally was. It's a core memory to me now for
There
sure.
you go. Perfect stuff. Great. We've come to the end of this very I want to say short, but we went through a lot in this
Yeah,
last almost half an hour. Lorenz, thank you so much for your time. I really
thank you.
appreciate it. It's great meeting you for the first time as well through
It's great.
this interview.
Hopefully, we get to do more.
Of course, I'm excited for that. Any last words before we end this interview?
Uh, I'd say to anyone out there who's looking to do well in their tournaments, I think it's just preparation and a bit of luck. Like you can't control how your luck goes. Sometimes it just goes bad. It
Mm.
happens, but never give up on preparation. Because someday when the luck finally does shine and you are prepared, it's gonna go so well. But if the luck goes to you but you're not prepared, then it's too bad. Yeah.
Spoken like a true champion. Lawrence, thank you so much. And thank you to
You.
all of you who have been tuning in all this while. I hope you grabbed something out of this video. I know I have. I'm going to be changing all my Charizard list right now, right after this. I'm going to head out that door and I'm just going to pick up my deck and it's like, you know what? I don't need to play Entei. Let's bring in the Delphox and let's see what
Yeah.
happens. It's once again Aaron here on the channel. Thank you all so much for
Thank you.
watching. Thank you, Lawrence, once again for being around. And we'll catch you in the next video. See ya.
Thank you.